Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, Anita Finley.
We have a special surprise for you. Our administrator, Dan Verity, will be here. He is here, as a matter of fact, and we're going to be reading from one of our Book of the Months, which is How to Overcome Once Easy Tasks That Are Now Pains in the You-Know-What. Over 200 proven solutions to everyday problems of boomers, seniors, caregivers, handicapped widows, and it's by Heather Latimer, who's a specialist in making difficult subjects easy. And we're going to read that, but Dan's sitting here chomping at the bit to get started. And we're going to do lots of things. And the first one, which I just think is so good, I never knew how to tap dance, Dan, and I never even had the idea. I just like to go and watch people do it.
Yeah.
So Heather has something in here called seated tap dancing, an emerging craze. It's great fun to exercise your legs and feet while tapping in time with a musical beat. Seek a senior center that has this class and supplies the shoes, or ask them to start one. Zumba has been around for a while and is super enjoyable, but could be a bit too fast for you. Okay, so Dan, have you ever tap danced?
No, I haven't, but
You'd be great. He's tall and thin. He'd be a gorgeous tap dancer.
I would be. It's always fascinated me.
Yeah, I don't know how they keep the feet tapping and dancing.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, well, what do we have next?
Let's see if we can find something fun here. Let's go. How about, this is very important. After someone dies, after my husband died, a $220 bill arrived stamped overdue. It had been paid 6 months earlier. Do check every statement that arrives purporting to be owed by the deceased. One may be from a legitimate concern in an inflated amount. Another could be claiming a purchase that was never made. A package might arrive containing a product that was never ordered. So that's important.
Well, you know, Dan, but I have to add something to that. I haven't died, and yet I get all sorts of bills, especially now with the Internet.
Right, yeah.
You're getting things. First of all, someone's going to give you $500 billion if you just answer. But on the other hand, there are a lot of people now that play that role. This is the bank, this is that, this is this, and it's not right.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful. You don't have to be dead to have a lot of funny things happen. So if someone sends you something and you're not sure, don't answer on the Internet. Make a phone call, right? And find out who it is, because it can be very, very tricky.
Absolutely.
Well, this is a great book because we're having fun with this, but you would too. I want to talk about relationships. It's really important when people are older. Everyone wants to have a relationship, and it's not always possible. You know, if you can't find a person, get a furry friend. You can have a great relationship. Yeah. So Dr. Phil at TV, is he still on? I don't even know. I don't watch him. Is he?
I don't either, but I believe he's on.
So Dr. Phil at TV fame says a relationship should complement who you are. But if you have to lose part of yourself, it's worthless. Other psychiatrists claim a relationship is a trade-off. You give something to get something. They claim that trouble arises if one person delivers a lot more than he or she is receiving in terms of attention, consideration, companionship, and love, or she or he is forced to forego seeing old friends or give up favorite hobbies. And that's, you have to be careful. As you age, you may get a little too lonesome, and you're an easy target for someone to be really nice to you, but it's really not true.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of things to look out for. And
it's also the same with Dan, with our relationship. Dan is so good. He's our administrator. And he has to give, and I have to give, and it works that way in business. It works that way everywhere.
Absolutely. And it keeps things on the level and happy, and we manage.
That's right.
Do. Absolutely. Well, here's a good one for this time of year. If you're getting ready to prepare your taxes, free tax preparation. Should you be a low-income filer over 60, you will probably be able to obtain assistance without expending a penny on your 1040 preparation. The IRS sponsors a tax counseling for the elderly program. call 1-800-906-9887 for a branch office near to where you live. AARP runs a similar service. Access aarp.org/find tax help or telephone 1-888-227-7669. And we will have this on our YouTube channel, so if you didn't get those numbers...
Well, I'm just going to say, of course, we're famous here for telling everyone to have Pencil Talk Radio.
Pencil Talk Radio, yeah.
Pencil Talk Pencil Talk Radio. But it's very important that when we start our show, and we've talked about that a lot, because otherwise you have to wind up calling our office and say, in fact, we just had a call. I have to share this with everyone. We had an extraordinary author. And I really can't even remember his name. He was a doctor, but the name of the book was, Healing. Let's see, I'm trying to remember now what that was. It was a book from a neurologist who talked about healing your brain, the brain that heals itself. That's the name of the book.
Yeah.
And we had a call yesterday from someone who wanted to know about that book. You can get on Amazon. It is called The Brain That Heals Itself. And that was all to do with something that now we know that once your brain loses some of its brain cells, there's still ways to enhance that. And this neurologist, it was the first time I ever heard the word plasticity. And that's exactly what it is. So it's a great book, and you have to get it on Amazon because we don't have them in our library. And I don't remember the man's name, but we could look it up. But why don't you look it up?
Yeah, and it obviously the person was listening that day to the interview and wrote it down.
Right.
Remembered it, and now they called us and want to figure out how to get that.
Talking about remembering, how about memory improvement? Forget names? Can't find keys? Take time dredging up the correct word to use in conversation? Luminosity.com was a leader in researching cognitive functioning long before computers were popular and gained worldwide recognition in consequence. Once you've accessed their web, click on free games. You'll receive 3 free exercises to be worked during 3 separate days. They'll take about 15 minutes each and consist of fascinating tests with flying birds, shapes, and characters designed to sharpen memory, lengthen attention span, access speed of recall, measure flexibility, and determine degree of ability to solve problems. Answers and scores are immediately displayed. Thankfully, Luminosity spares us from constant attempts to force one to buy. With 15 million subscribers, it obviously relies on getting you hooked due to pitting your wits against the free samples. The fee is about $14.95 a month for exercises that are increasingly fun-filled as they become more and more challenging to mental acuity. There is no suggestion that these exercises can stave off dementia or Alzheimer's. Dan, I remember asking, I listened to it all the advertisement on NPR, and I asked a friend of mine who actually has gotten on that website and does those tests. So I'm very fascinated. Yeah, I'm going to try it. I think it'd be wonderful. Yeah. And what happens is, let's say you're doing it and you're not really good at it first. She was saying that if you keep doing it, it does improve ways for you to concentrate. So I think we all need it. I've never been good at names. It's not because I'm growing older. I just never, even when I was young, I didn't really remember names. I remember people's faces. Yeah. And yet we have someone in our office who remembers everybody's name, and it makes you think like you're stupid. But there's certain people who do have their brain works in a different way. Yeah. And so, now, you don't know this, but I used to, in some of my seminars, I would teach memory. I forget what I called it, but was helping people with memory. And there's a whole book on how you teach it. And what you would do is, everybody's name, your name is, for instance, Dan. I would say Dan sitting on a pan doing something else. And you see, and you do that with everyone's name. So I used to do it, and I would go, and there'd be no one I met before, and there'd be 25 people, and I would get all their names, and I would be able to then go by with just strangers and remember their names. Yeah. But that's like, a real memory class, a memory booster. So if it's really important to you, you can learn how to do it.
Right.
But it wasn't really important enough to me to do that. I'd rather spend my time being creative in a different way.
Right. I know. I have such a problem with names too, and
You probably always have.
Yeah. Always.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And like you, I remember the face very well.
Right. And what they said.
Yeah.
Lots of things.
I know, it's terrible. It's embarrassing, actually.
Well, I don't get embarrassed. Oh, yeah, that's right. Because when you meet someone, but do you know the Southern women never had a problem because everybody was honey. Darling, honey. They never had to say it, right?
That's right.
They were very clever.
Very clever. Well, here's another clever one from Heather Latimer, who's the author of our book. She tells us how to rehydrate stale bread. That's it.
I like that.
Sure. Supermarkets often discount or give away bread that expired on the previous day. There's nothing harmful in eating bakery that's not more than 48 hours out of date, except it may be dry. To overcome this, wrap it in a damp kitchen towel and microwave on high in 10-second bursts. It will become soft enough to eat.
Now, that's interesting you should mention because we all love French bread.
Uh-huh.
And if you let it go the next day, now someone, Loic over at the French bakery said that what he does is when you buy the French bread, take a piece off and then put the rest in the freezer right away. Because they actually do have frozen bread that they'll put out because they make so much.
Right.
And the other thing that I want to tell you, while we're on this, listen, she has done a lot for us. Of course, Heather got our brains moving along, and we still have 15 more minutes. So let me tell you something else I learned. I went to a meeting, and there was a chef there, and she was giving us all sorts of information. And I buy frozen vegetables, and I make them. And then, of course, you only eat a portion of it, and then usually I put it in a jar and put it in the refrigerator. No. It's if you put paper towels in that jar because it absorbs the water. Otherwise, it gets ruined soggy very quickly. Right. And you have to almost change it every day because if you feel that cloth, it keeps getting moist. And, of course, I give Snowy, our little dog, a lot of those vegetables.
Right.
So now, I have this, and it has not – I've had it for a week, and they're not ruined by doing that.
Interesting.
Changing it with – that's what they do in the big restaurants, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
So that's good.
I'm going to have to try that because that's
right.
Great.
Little do you know, right?
Yeah.
You didn't know how smart I am with all these little things. Okay. So here's something that I really don't like this one, but I'm going to read it because we know that we're getting a lot of this in politics, and it's so appropriate. It's called verbal abuse. How to recognize it, how to stop it. This is a soul-destroying practice designed to gain the upper hand in a relationship. In consequence, it douses your personality and unique identity, submerges your will, drowns your independence, and, in most serious cases, turns you into a simpering, whispering child again. It's sometimes delivered by a caregiver or, regrettably, the man, woman, or child you love more than anyone else in the world. You may make excuses, but she doesn't mean it. Oh, yes, she does. So here are a few of the many forms of verbal abuse. Trivializing jobs you have done. Blatantly ignoring your wishes, saying you don't know what you're talking about. Refusing to respond or converse with you. Insisting something you're absolutely certain happened. Didn't happen. Making so-called jokes that degrade you. If you protest claiming you can't take a joke, so that's, all these things you can hear that's happened to all of us. Addressing you in baby talk and tones. Accusing and blaming you often for lost items. Yelling or raging against you. Calling you by a nickname that devalues you rather than an affectionate pet name. Ordering rather than asking you. Criticizing, judging, or punishing you. Denying emotional support when you're feeling ill or sad. Watching TV, reading, or concentrating on text messages while you're commenting on something, then saying, go ahead, I'm listening. Wow, that's, I'm sure, very common now. Before you take any action and you're a victim or suspect you are, I must sincerely advise you to read. This is the book to read. The verbally abusive relationship, how to recognize it, how to respond, and that's by someone named Patricia Evans. And when we tell you these things, you know, you have to know that everyone has somebody or something like this in their life. All we want you to do is to be aware of it and just don't let it affect your own personality. That person has the problem. Like we see now in politics and we're very attentive to what's going on. I know that I shake my head all the time because I hope that some of these people aren't serious about the way that they talk. And we, of course, know who we're talking about. It's just very, I think it's disastrous to somebody. It really hurts their feelings. And you know, and I don't want to say this, but there are people who could be suicidal. And just with one bad thing, it could just put them over the top.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. It's, and especially with, you know, the social media being so common as it is, we all have such quick access to that. You know, it used to be where if you had something to say to somebody and you weren't sure about it, you would sleep on it, right?
Yeah, they say sleep on it.
Sleep on it and see how you feel the next day. Well, we're too quick now. We don't take that advice anymore because it's too quick to get to the keyboard.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's times that my finger's waiting on the send button.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, should I? Shouldn't I?
If you have any doubt at all, hold off. Okay. Sleep on it. That's my advice. We have Heather has littered her book with these neat little sayings. And this one on page 70 says, the wounds of words that bleed inwardly are the most dangerous. And that was said by John Lyle.
Well, for
what we were just talking about, I suppose.
Exactly.
Well, this one is about bars.
Oh, nobody goes to bars, ha ha ha.
In early years, no female was allowed to sit at a bar unless escorted by a male, and no respectable lady would dare do so. Nowadays, it's acceptable for a woman to enjoy a drink on her own, and there's nothing amiss in testing the bar scene for meeting people and making friends. Of course, like every locale, it has its own set of customs and deviations. Here are just a few. If you must temporarily depart before finishing your drink, tell the bartender you're leaving and when you'll be back. Place a napkin on top of your glass to reserve your place. Never walk away and leave your drink uncovered and unattended. Some weirdo may pop a date rape or other lethal pill into it. If you receive many refills without ordering them, beware. An unscrupulous bartender can try to get you impaired either for his own benefit or that of a buddy who is along the counter. It's called sandbagging. Watch to see you're not charged for more drinks than consumed. Years ago, when most men in England smoked and frequented pubs, they used to put a match in their pocket each time they received a drink.
I never heard that.
I never heard that either, but I guess it works. Casinos give free drinks to those who play on their video machines. It's usual to tip $1 a drink immediately upon being served rather than when you were leaving. Should you become inebriated, driving yourself home can be disastrous. If the cops get you, you'll be taken to jail. Call a good friend or taxi, no matter what it costs. Next day, ask someone to help you to collect your car. And finally, far the best course is to find a favorite place and frequent it so bartenders greet you, get to know you as a regular, and make sure no one offends you.
Yeah, it's funny now. I can picture Heather, an older lady, and so funny that she would get into this bar thing. But, it's funny now, too. A lot of people, we used to say, people would find friends in bars, dates, but now everybody goes online if they're looking for that.
Right.
But I will tell you something that I don't know if you knew, and of course I doubt if any of our listeners know about me. I was 21. I had been married when I was 17, so now I had 2 children, I believe. 2 children at that time. And my husband wanted to go to get his college degree. Mm-hmm. So I had a job, and then we were able to buy a beer and wine bar. And I was 21,
really?
And I didn't even drink. And we had that for 3.5 years. And I worked that beer and wine bar all that time I would go in at noon, I even helped scrub the boards. I mean, that really refreshed my memory about bars.
Right.
And I got to really psychologically know a lot of people. I got to play pool because I had to keep the customers there.
Right.
In blouses that were a little bit low cut. So
right.
I was thinking about all this as you were talking. And the biggest, funniest thing was when there'd be some gentlemen would be there, whether they were gentlemen or not, but they'd be there every night. And when their wife would call, they'd say, no, don't tell her I'm here. So, I have a lot of experience in all this. So I hadn't thought about that until you read that. Okay. Now, how about this one? Pants need shortening. That's hysterical. I don't know. A lot of people do they buy skirts and they buy pants. So let's see what this is. The first indication that you're losing height is usually the moment pants that fitted you perfectly are now too long. Aha. People usually chop off, say, 2 inches and make a raw edge that needs to be stitched. A better way is to make a chalk line at about the 2-inch mark. Turn the garment inside out. Undo the stitching that secures the hem below, which is the horizontal crease pressed in by the manufacturer. This is silly. We're not going to do this. You know what? I'm not going to read this one because if you just take it to the tailor and just get it done. That's too much work. We want to spend time having fun, don't we? So we don't want to do that one. Okay. But this is a very short, good one. In fact, Bill, my husband, really did this. Trouble tying shoelaces? Mm-hmm. You can buy stretchable laces or make these yourself out of rolled elastic. Now, I don't know about that. Forget that. Just buy them. Cut the same length as those you remove. Thread and tie once while your foot is in the shoe. You may not need to endure the struggle of bending down and tying again. It's very interesting. That's very important for an older person.
Absolutely.
Because I know Bill has vision problems and I know his shoelaces were old, so he had to figure out what to do. So he went and bought those kind of shoelaces.
It's probably even good for people that have arthritis, too.
Absolutely.
You don't have to...
Right. The best thing would be Velcro. Shoes that have Velcro ties. But if you're like a special kind of a shoe, they don't all have Velcro, so...
Right. My dad has a pair of sneakers that are Velcro.
Very good.
Very easy. And it's good, too, because in the middle of the night when they got to get up and let the dog out, he doesn't have to fumble around in the dark with...
Doesn't he have just slippers?
Well, that probably would be easier.
I wear slippers at night when I take snow,
Let's see.
This will probably be the last one because then we're going to go.
Okay. If you can't see what's on your plate, Joseph, my significant other, is 95 and 98% blinded by a macular hole. He couldn't see the fried egg, bacon, and toast on his white plate. Near Valentine's Day, when red plates were displayed in Smith's supermarket, I hit on the idea of buying plates of that color. Problem solved. And she says, Find Things Easily Locator contains 2 simple patterns I dreamed up for making a cover for a table or counter with divisions that can be felt by touching. A boon for a vision-impaired person. That's another one ahead.
Well, I read that. And
that's interesting.
No, and the thing that is going to be very good on that is I'm going to get, we have really nice white china dishes. I'm going to get red paper plates, I think, and put on it because Bill does have problems seeing a lot of things. And, people who are visual impaired, it's really tough. So anyway, Dan, it's been wonderful having you here.
I enjoyed being here.
Yeah, and we're going to go off into our next we have lots of commercials to play. Don't forget about Dan. You can meet Dan when you come to our Cure Symposium.
I'll be there.
That's right. And so if you want to call our office, it's 561-864-1101. 864-1101. And thank you. Now you go home and go back to sleep.
Yeah.